But within a couple of months, Chris started noticing a cold, rigid shift in the dynamic. Every single workshop she attended was strictly for her eyes only. Every time she sat on the couch journaling for hours, she would immediately slam the book shut if Chris walked into the room. She had absolutely nothing to share with him anymore. When Chris gently suggested that he could read one of the self help books she was loving so they could discuss the concepts over dinner, she completely snapped at him, yelling, "This is my private journey, Chris, not ours. Stop trying to insert yourself into everything I do." Every single time Chris asked a basic question about what she was learning or how she was feeling, she accused him of suffocating her growth, being deeply insecure, and refusing to let her breathe. Meanwhile, his data driven mind couldn't ignore what her self focus actually looked like in reality. Her path to inner healing curiously involved going out of town on long weekend trips by herself, staying out incredibly late at networking events he was explicitly uninvited to, and spending endless hours online texting new, mysterious friends he had never once met face to face. Chris eventually woke up and realized the painful truth. She wasn't healing her relationship with him at all. She was simply using the trendy language of modern psychology to create the massive emotional distance she needed to justify stepping out of his life without feeling like the bad guy. Gentlemen, when you face this situation, the core question you must ask yourself is incredibly simple. Does her personal growth bring her closer to your side, or does it constantly require you to disappear into the background? Does she enthusiastically include you in her new discoveries, or does every single step she takes forward require you to completely step back? Real growth makes a love story stronger. Fake growth is just a strategic tool designed to make betrayal look like personal evolution. This right here is the most psychologically dangerous and destructive statement of all four, because it doesn't just deflect responsibility away from her, it actively rewires your mind, challenges your sanity, and forces you to doubt your own eyes. This tactic operates entirely through immediate, hyper aggressive offense. Think about how it plays out in real life. You ask a perfectly basic, normal, completely reasonable question that any invested, loving partner in a committed relationship would ask. You might casually say, "Hey, who are you texting so late at night?" Or, "How was your night out with the girls?" There is no anger in your voice, no accusation, and no hostility. But instead of giving you a simple, straightforward answer, she completely explodes. The reaction is entirely disproportionate to the question. Instantly, the focus of the conversation is violently ripped away from her shady, ambiguous behavior and shown directly onto your alleged insecurity, your supposed toxicity, and your controlling nature. Within seconds, you are no longer talking about her hiding her phone screen. You are now defending your entire character as a man. Listen to me very closely. When a partner has absolutely nothing to hide, their instinctive, automatic reaction to a casual question is clarity, not combat. They naturally and effortlessly reassure you because transparency takes zero energy when you are telling the truth. If a partner is just texting their mom or laughing at a meme from a coworker, they will happily show you the screen or tell you the joke without a second thought. True transparency feels completely natural when a person's actions align with their words. But the absolute second someone is harboring secrets, telling lies, or building an emotional connection in the dark, every single casual question you ask feels like a terrifying interrogation room. Because answering you honestly carries a massive risk of exposure, her only viable defense mechanism is to attack your right to ask the question in the first place. She has to make the price of your curiosity so incredibly painful, loud, and exhausting that you will think twice before ever questioning her again. Take the case of Mark, a sharp, level headed restaurant manager who experienced this exact psychological trap firsthand. Mark started noticing a highly concerning shift in his girlfriend's phone habits. Whenever they sat down for dinner, she would constantly flip her phone screen face down on the table, and she would jump to grab it the moment a notification buzzed. Late one night, as they were winding down, he saw her smiling intensely at her screen, carefully tilting it away from his line of sight. Mark asked calmly, with completely neutral energy, "Hey, who's messaging you this late?" Her response was an immediate, calculated emotional nuclear strike. She leaped off the couch and exploded at him, screaming, "Why are you always checking on me? Why are you suffocating me? You are so possessive, I literally cannot breathe in this relationship. You are insecure, you are controlling, and your behavior is completely toxic." The sheer volume and anger of her response completely shell shocked Mark. Within 5 minutes of this absolute whirlwind, the topic of the late night text messages was completely dropped, and Mark found himself practically begging for her forgiveness, apologizing profusely just to calm her down and keep the peace. It wasn't until weeks later that Mark discovered the brutal truth. His girlfriend was deep into an intense emotional affair with a new male coworker at her office. The person she was smiling at and texting that exact night was that very man. The massive emotional explosion she unleashed on Mark wasn't a genuine expression of hurt or a reaction to being suffocated. It was a deeply calculated, highly effective smokescreen designed to make Mark silence his own sharp instincts so she could proceed completely unchecked. This is the conditioning process. Over weeks and months, because you want to avoid those exhausting blowups, you slowly stop asking questions. You bottle up your intuition. You tell yourself, "I don't want to seem insecure. Maybe I am being too controlling." And that right there is exactly what she wants, for you to willingly blindfold yourself while she continues her behavior behind your back. Let me be crystal clear. Your normal, healthy questions are not the problem. Her toxic secrets are the problem. Never forget that. Once she has successfully conditioned you to stop asking questions by labeling you as controlling, the sequence shifts smoothly into the final, most sophisticated trap of all. "I just really want us to be totally honest with each other from now on." On the very surface, this statement sounds like the ultimate relationship breakthrough you have been waiting for. You hear those words and your heart immediately lightens. You think to yourself, "Finally, the walls are coming down. This is real growth. This is true transparency. And we are finally going to build real communication and fix everything that felt broken." But you need to look past the beautiful packaging and see the underlying strategy. This is almost never a request for mutual honesty. It is the carefully laid groundwork for selective honesty. It is a highly effective, deeply manipulative psychological tactic designed to get you to lay bare your deepest vulnerabilities, your biggest regrets, and your worst fears, while she carefully curates, controls, and locks down exactly what she reveals about her own reality. It looks like radical openness, but it is actually an information gathering mission. The moment she establishes this new standard of radical openness, she will suddenly become intensely, deeply curious about every single detail of your life. She will ask you to open up about your childhood wounds, your past relationship heartbreaks, your career insecurities, and the mistakes you've made that you aren't proud of. Because you are a good man who genuinely wants to build a deep, intimate bond, you open up completely and bare your entire soul to her. You share your weaknesses because you believe that is what real love looks like. But notice what happens the exact second you try to flip the mirror back around. The very moment you ask a direct, clear question about her current behavior, like her sudden late night disappearances, her cagey phone habits, or an ambiguous new male friend she keeps mentioning, the entire tone of the relationship instantly shifts from warm intimacy to icy defense. The trap snaps shut on you immediately. She will look at you with deep disappointment and use your own desire for closeness as a weapon against you, saying, "Wow, I can't believe this. I thought we agreed to be completely open and vulnerable. Why can't you just trust me after everything I have shared with you? I lay my soul bare to you, and you still want to interrogate me? You're just being suspicious." She masterfully uses the fact that you know her struggles to make you feel incredibly guilty for asking about her actual real time shady behavior. She creates a false equivalence, making it seem like her telling you a sad story about her childhood gives her a free pass to hide what she is doing in the present moment. Consider the story of an insurance agent named Tom, a great guy who fell into this exact trap. His girlfriend announced one evening that she wanted them to have an unfiltered, soul deep relationship with absolute honesty. Tom was thrilled. Over the next few weeks, she systematically extracted every single one of Tom's deepest vulnerabilities: his fears about getting older, his financial stresses, and the painful details of his first major heartbreak. Tom laid everything on the table because she made it feel like a safe space for intimacy. But then, the data stopped making sense. One evening, Tom noticed she was going out for drinks after work far more frequently, and she would completely dodge any questions about who she was actually with. When Tom finally asked a direct, simple question: "Hey, who were you out with until midnight last night? It makes me uncomfortable when you don't check in," the trap was instantly sprung. She looked at him with disgust and snapped, "Tom, I have shared my deepest inner world with you. I thought we had an honest bond. The fact that you are tracking my time and acting so suspicious proves you don't trust me at all. It is never enough for you." While Tom was walking around completely exposed, carrying the weight of his own bared vulnerabilities, she was actively hiding the one single truth that actually mattered: her rapidly growing physical and emotional connection with a man from her past. This is the cruel genius of selective honesty. It deliberately feeds you just enough superficial truth, small scraps of transparency, and emotional stories to keep your logical mind calm, while entirely hiding the massive betrayal that would set off every single alarm bell in your masculine gut. It makes you feel incredibly guilty for asking for a full, honest meal because she already handed you a few crumbs of vulnerability. Real, authentic honesty is always entirely mutual. It flows easily and naturally in both directions. And it never, under any circumstances, makes you feel like a toxic villain for wanting basic clarity about your partner's actions. The very second you recognize any of these four psychological patterns playing out in your relationship, you must immediately implement a total freeze on your default reactions. You must not argue. You must not chase. You must not scream. You must not slam doors. And you must absolutely stop demanding answers. This is where most men completely lose their footing and destroy their own position of strength. When you react with emotional chaos, when you launch into a screaming match or try to debate her logic, you look entirely weak, reactive, and deeply insecure. You are showing her that she has complete control over your emotional state. When you chase her down the hallway, begging for an explanation or trying to fix her mood, you inadvertently validate her pre built excuses, giving her the perfect ammunition to claim that you really are as suffocating and overbearing as she says you are. Even worse, when you sit there for hours trying to debate the semantics of her words, you are actively gifting her the precious time she needs to delete text messages, align her cover stories, and cleanly cover her tracks. You are playing a game where she wrote the rules, and as long as you are fighting her words, you are losing. Here is the single, unshakable golden rule that completely protects your masculine power, restores your frame, and shields your mind from the chaos. You must entirely stop listening to what she says and start ruthlessly, clinically observing what she does. Actions never lie. Human beings can rehearse sentences, manipulate vocal tones, and fake tears to survive a difficult conversation, but their physical actions possess a brutal, unyielding honesty. Attention, effort, and physical investment cannot be faked over a sustained period of time. Where a person pours their energy, their time, and their resources is where their true loyalty resides. The moment you stop focusing on the auditory noise coming out of her mouth and start purely tracking her physical movement, the fog of gaslighting completely evaporates, and the truth reveals itself with crystal clear precision. When she looks you in the eyes and says, "I'm just so incredibly stressed out with work lately," do not argue with her logic. Don't fight her on it or try to convince her that her job isn't that hard. Accept the statement with calm, neutral energy. Step completely back and simply watch her real world behavior. Is she truly exhausted across the board, or is that exhaustion highly selective? If she is completely withdrawn, cold, and dead inside the walls of your home, but the absolute second she steps outside, she is pouring massive energy into her appearance, buying a brand new wardrobe, hitting the gym with fierce intensity, and flashing bright, vibrant smiles at everyone else in the outside world, you have your answer. That stark, undeniable contrast is your raw data. Stress does not selectively turn off only when she looks at you. When she deploys the second line and tells you, "I just really need to focus on myself and heal right now," do not drop to your knees and beg for her attention. Do not try to bargain for her love or promise to change. Maintain your dignity, stand tall, and closely observe the structural layout of her path to self improvement. Real, genuine personal development inside a committed relationship naturally and enthusiastically seeks to include you in the transformation because she wants her partner to level up alongside her. But if her path to healing explicitly requires you to step completely out of the picture, if it requires her to keep secrets, go to events uninvited, and build a lifestyle where your presence is treated like an annoying obstacle, that is not personal growth. That is strategic alienation. And her actions are showing you that she is already building a life where you simply do not fit. When she snaps at you during a normal conversation and screams, "You are being entirely too controlling and insecure," do not get defensive. Do not launch into a 20-minute speech explaining why you are a good, open minded guy. Take a deep, silent breath, step outside of your emotions, and logically assess the reality of the situation. Ask yourself one objective question. Was the question you just asked a basic, normal, healthy boundary that any invested partner would ask? Or was it actual, unprovoked paranoia? If you simply asked who she was texting at midnight or why she changed her plans at the last second, that is a completely standard expectation of transparency in a committed relationship. If your question was entirely reasonable and her immediate reaction was a hyper aggressive emotional nuclear strike against your character, she is not reacting to your behavior at all. She is violently reacting to the terrifying fear of exposure. Her anger is a defensive smokescreen designed to make you feel crazy so that you stop looking at the truth. You need to understand once and for all that your masculine intuition is not paranoia. It is a highly sophisticated process of subconscious data collection. Your brain is a brilliant pattern recognition machine. Long before your logical mind can put the pieces together, your subconscious is already catching the millions of tiny micro shifts happening right in front of you. The sudden coldness in her eyes when you walk into the room, the way she holds her phone just a little bit tighter when you sit down next to her, the subtle drop in the enthusiasm of her voice, or the way she no longer asks about your day. Your conscious mind wants to make excuses because the truth hurts, but your gut recognizes that the pattern of attraction has been broken. When the words coming out of her mouth sound perfectly logical and reasonable on paper, but your chest feels constantly heavy, suffocating, and anxious, you must trust your chest. That is your biological radar screaming at you that the data doesn't match the reality, and it is screaming for a definitive reason. Let's summarize this entire psychological sequence with absolute clarity so you can see the chessboard for exactly what it is. I'm just not in the mood lately. Her physical desire has not died. It has simply been completely redirected towards someone else. I need to focus on myself. This is not a journey of personal growth. It is a calculated phase of strategic alienation designed to ease her guilt. You're being too controlling. This is not a reflection of your insecurity. It is a weaponized deflection engineered to make you silence your own instincts. I just want us to be totally honest. This is not true vulnerability. It is a trap of selective transparency designed to feed you scraps of truth while hiding the reality that matters most. You must internalize this ultimate truth. The right woman, a high value woman who truly respects you and values the relationship, will never make you feel like a frantic detective inside your own home. She will never force you to question your own sanity or reality just for wanting basic emotional closeness. She will never punish you, scream at you, or call you toxic for asking straightforward, honest questions about her behavior. She will never hide behind the trendy language of modern therapy, healing, or boundaries while keeping you completely in the dark about her life. A woman who genuinely loves you will make that love entirely visible, easy to see, and natural to feel. She will never make it a riddle that is impossible to solve, or a case that you are constantly forced to prove. Your true power as a man in this world does not lie in winning a screaming match, text dumping your feelings, or successfully forcing someone to stay who wants to leave. Your power does not lie in begging, pleading, or trying to negotiate attraction with a woman who is already checked out. Your real power lies entirely in your absolute ability to calmly observe the data, trust your masculine intuition without hesitation, and walk away cleanly, silently, and confidently the exact second her real world actions completely contradict her spoken words. Turn around and leave with your head held high, without a massive scene and without looking back. That is not weakness. That is the ultimate expression of self respect. That is exactly how you protect your limited time on this earth, preserve your absolute focus, and maintain your ironclad sanity.